Hi, it's Stacy from Proven Winners ColorChoice Shrubs, and I wanted to talk to you today about watering. Now, every year, especially in summer when it starts to get really hot, we hear from a lot of people who want us to give them a really simple formula on how much to water and how often. And I truly wish it was that simple. But the fact is there are so many factors that complicate this that we can't just say, water this many times for this long in this way. The two biggest factors we need to consider when it comes to watering recommendations are soil drainage and how much water the plant uses. So it's really hard to predict how your soil drains. That depends on how much clay it has, that depends on how dense it is, that depends on slope and all of these other factors, whether or not there's mulch. And how fast the plant uses the water depends on a whole host of other factors. For example, how hot it is, how much sun the plant is getting, whether there's competition from nearby trees or lawns or things like that. So when you consider all of these different factors that go into whether or not a plant needs water, it's really hard to just say, okay, get out your hose, put it on this setting, water for this long, this many times a week. It's impossible. Overall, you want to aim, especially for newly planted shrubs, to not dry out entirely during their entire first season, but nor should they ever be really wet or soggy. And I can tell you that in 9 years of answering people's questions about gardening and planting our shrubs, I have by far seen more people kill their plants through overwatering than underwatering. Not even close. There's so many more people who overwater their plants than underwater their plants. And overwatering is particularly problematic for plants. Roots need oxygen just in the same way that the top of the plant does. And when you water a plant, all of the air spaces in the soil fill up with water. Now, if that happens consistently and the plant never gets a break and never gets a chance to take up oxygen, it starts to literally suffocate and the roots will start to rot. So it's really difficult and the plant has no other way to deal with it. You know, if the plant is getting too little water, it can wilt, it can stop flowering. There's a lot of adaptations it can make. But when it comes to too much water, there's almost no adaptations it can make. So as much as we'd love to be able to give you a magical formula that ensures your success, we just can't. But we're not going to leave you empty-handed. What we're going to do is if you are one of those people who say, I really just need simple instructions and I need to make sure that I won't mess this up, we've got a suggestion for you. Get a water meter. So you can get a water meter for pretty much any budget range, anywhere from about $8 to $10, all the way up through about $40. And these are readily available online, at your local garden center and places like that. They work really simply. In fact, most of them don't even require a battery because they just measure electrical resistance in the soil. So we just got two as an example, just to show you sort of some of the range that's out there. This isn't an endorsement. Like I said, they all work pretty much the same, so you can just pick whatever you like for your budget. But this is probably the more common and less high-tech one. And basically, pretty easy. All you do is stick it in the soil and it will tell you literally how much moisture is in there. No batteries, very, very simple and easy to use. Now this one's a little bit more complicated because it does require a battery and it allows you to calibrate it. And what that means is that you can basically say, hey, here are my ideal conditions that I always want to measure against. I want to aim for this. And then it will always let you do that. But this one comes in this really nice chic packaging. And when you take it out, you can see that it's much more heavy duty, it's made out of metal, and it's much longer. So this is really nice if you want to measure deeper in the soil or way down in a container. That's another great thing about moisture meters. They work just as well in containers as they do in the ground. So I'm just going to show you real quick what it looks like when you use a water meter. So using a moisture meter is really simple. As you can see, the tip is pointed and literally all you do is stick it in the ground near your plant. Now you want to aim to not go too close. You want to, especially if it's a newer plant, go just outside of where the root ball is because that's where you really want the moisture to be, to encourage the roots to branch out into that soil. So all you have to do is take the area you want to measure and just stick it in. Now as you can see, as it goes down, the moisture level changes, and that really tells you to what depth the moisture has penetrated. So that's a nice way to measure that as well. So you don't need to go down the entire length of the probe on the meter. Just going down about 5 to 6 inches, something like that, is totally fine. And you want to then leave it and take your reading, because what you'll notice is as you're going down and coming up, that moisture is going to fluctuate because it's probably going to be a little bit wetter at the top. But basically, if you're in the moist range, you don't have to water. If it starts dipping towards the dry, you might want to plan on watering the next day or maybe even later that day, depending on the weather. And of course, if you're ever up here in the wet range, you definitely don't want to water. As you can see, a moisture meter is a really simple, foolproof way to make sure that your shrubs are getting the right amount of water, never too wet, never too dry. And it's really versatile. You can use this on your houseplants, you can use this in containers, you can use it in your landscape, wherever you want to use it. I think it's a really great tool for gardeners, especially those who don't have a lot of confidence in their gardening skill just yet, to have in their arsenal. If you have any questions, you can always reach us at provenwinners.com/feedback.